Hello everyone, so just a quick disclaimer, we had a few sound issues at certain moments, so I invite you to activate the subtitles in the settings. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the episode. Welcome to Reiki Banashi, a podcast where we talk about Reiki in a simple way. I'm your host Nina, practitioner and Shihan, teacher of Jikiden Reiki. Today I have the immense honor of welcoming three extraordinary people to talk about their new book, 125 Waka of Meiji Emperor. I have the great pleasure of welcoming my very first teacher, a highly important international figure in Reiki world, Frank Arjava Petter. Arjava was the vice president of the Jikiden Reiki Institute until December 2024. He is the author of numerous bestsellers on Reiki, including This is Reiki, the original handbook of Mikao Usui, Reiki Fire, One with Reiki, to name just a few. And he teaches Reiki in all corners of the world. He has also carried out extensive research on the origins and history of Reiki. In fact, he lived in Japan for 12 years, and he also teaches meditation and has written several books of poetry. I'm also welcoming Eri Luhmann, Shihan of Jikiden Reiki, Shodo artist, Japanese calligrapher, and author living in Oregon in the US. And finally, I'm also welcoming Patrick Lankau, Shihan of Jikiden Reiki, spiritual healer living in Hamburg, Germany. And I am delighted to be able to share this conversation with you, so make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Okay, 皆さん、こんにちは、こんばんは、maybe for Eri. ようこそ、おはようございます。Ah, that's right. おはようございます。And こんばんは, or guten Abend, I guess, in some parts. Yeah, buonasera here, and welcome to Reiki Banashi podcast. Today's episode is really, truly special for me because I have the great pleasure and joy to welcome three amazing people as we'll talk about their beautiful book, 125 Waka, Poems of the Meiji Emperor. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. And it's very special to me as I'm welcoming first someone very, very dear to my heart, as he's my teacher and friend and internationally respected figure in the Reiki world, Frank Arjava Petter. And I don't really know how to introduce Arjava because he's done so much for Reiki. And yeah, Arjava, you're the author of numerous bestseller books about Reiki. You've done so much research and on Reiki history, and you teach all around the world. And you've also been the vice president of the Jikiden Reiki Institute for more than 20 years, not 25 years almost, until December 2024. And now you're focusing on your new life chapter. So yeah, before introducing our two other wonderful guests, first of all, Arjava, I'd love to thank you for all the incredible research, books, teachings, and love that you share to the world, to your students for so many years. And yeah, for all what you did for Reiki, for being this beautiful bridge between Japan and the West for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. None of that, whatever I happened to do in my life, none of that was planned. It just happened kind of, okay, even though it was lots of work, but it happened effortlessly, just like by itself. I didn't have any in a way, didn't have any say in it. I couldn't say yes, I couldn't say no. It was just in front of my doorstep happening, and I just surrendered. And so it was not difficult.
But thank you anyway, because you've been really giving so much to the community and for Reiki history, and really this role, even if you didn't look for it, was very, very helpful for so many of us to understand Reiki in a deeper way. So yeah, first of all, that I had to say. And yeah, I'm also thrilled to meet and welcome two other wonderful Reiki teachers that I just met today, because it's the first time we're meeting today. Jikiden Reiki Shihan Eri Luman, who's Japanese and lives in the US in Portland, right? Is it correct? Yeah, Portland. Oregon. And so Eri is a very talented Shodo artist, Japanese calligraphy, and she did the beautiful calligraphies on the book. We will see that later. So welcome, Eri-san.
ありがとうございます。
And we have Patrick Lankau. Is it correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Patrick Lankau, spiritual healer, Jikiden Reiki Shihan as well, from Hamburg. We were talking before about Hamburg. And so you've designed this beautiful book. And so we'll definitely come back to this topic later. So welcome, Patrick, as well.
Hello.
And I'm so happy to have all three of you with me today. And so you've worked together on this wonderful, meaningful project, the 125 Waka of the Meiji Emperor. And it's a collection that brings together 125 poems. So the translation, as I can read there, is a translation from our Java, with Eri-san's exquisite calligraphy and beautiful and thoughtful design by Patrick. And as you can see, you know, I have so many bookmarks. This is the sign when I really love a book and I come back to it. So yeah, this is this is me when I love a book. When Silke and Amanda came, it was also a lot of a lot of bookmarks on their book. And so, yeah, just to give a little bit of context to our listeners that may be not familiar with the Waka and with Meiji Emperor. So, why are we talking about your book in Reiki podcast? First of all, it's because, of course, Mikao Usui Sensei integrated these Waka that are short poems written in nandake. Goshi goshi, that would be 5, 7, 5, 7, 7 syllabic structure, right? Correct. And so he integrated that in his teachings, and it's also known as Gyosei, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that was shared with Reiki students during the time of Usui Sensei and then Hayashi Sensei. And so they were reciting some of the poems every morning and evening alongside with the Gokai, the 5 Reiki principles, right? And sometimes before Reiju as well. Is that correct? Yeah? Yeah, okay.
So in 1997, I was given a copy of Usui Sensei's workshop materials by one of the teachers of the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai of Usui Sensei Association. That Shihan was called Ogawa Sensei, and before he died, he passed on some documents to me. I don't know why, but he felt that that was the right thing to do. So we translated all the materials with my former wife, and I published the Waka for the first time in 1999 in a book that was called The Spirit of Reiki, or in German, Das Reiki Kompendium. Over the next years, all the time, continuously, somebody was asking me, why don't you publish the Meiji Emperor's poems one day? Why don't you do it? How come you don't do it? How come you haven't done it? And I'm like, it's been done. But somehow they disappeared in the book because they were only text.
Yeah.
And probably the readers read what at the time William Lee Rand, Walter Lübeck, and I had to say. We did the project together. They read our essays, and then they saw, now come the poems by the Meiji Emperor, and they probably read one or two and thought, okay, continue somewhere else. So it went by completely unnoticed. And after I'd heard that, I don't know how many hundreds of times, we were in Frankfurt, Patrick was there, and Ute Vetter, one of our friends, was there, and another friend, Brigitte Grimberg, and all together, those three guys said, why don't we bring the book out with just the poems and make a really nice, beautiful coffee table kind of book out of it? And then I thought, okay, if we want to do that, the best would be to find a professional calligrapher, make it really delicious, And then I thought of Elisa, and that was the beginning of this project.
Beautiful. Yeah, I was about to ask you how it started. So yeah, the idea was already there, and it's true that probably the last book that you mentioned wasn't the main focus, right? So here to have this main focus here, it's really making it shine, and we can really focus on the wonderful poems here. And so, how did you have also the idea to have it in 3 languages?
As we started in 2017, my wish was to have a book for my seminars for teaching like Usui did, and I said to Ajava we should have English for all, Japanese for the special people, and also German, because we have a lot of Shihan in Germany, and it was a wish from all to have the Waka.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Yeah, and I think it's really meaningful to have it in different languages, as usually we have only English, right? So it's really nice that you integrated also German in the project. Yeah, that's very, very nice. And then, yeah, I would love to talk also about calligraphy, because how could we not talk about the beautiful calligraphy of Eris? And I don't know if we can share a little bit, like a sneak peek. Like every single waka has a beautiful calligraphy. So that's 125 calligraphies. And so, yeah, Eri-san, your calligraphy in the book is simply stunning. Yeah, absolutely. Clap, clap, clap. Really. And mainly, I understand that in traditional shodo, the focus is often usually on kanji, right? Kanji, the Japanese ideograms. But waka, as I learned, are mostly written in hiragana. This is something I learned, the simple phonetic alphabet. So could you share how you approach this challenge artistically? Because if you're used to that, how did you integrate the hiragana?
There's we learn basic calligraphy, like a kanji, and hiragana also. When we are little, we start learning from hiragana, but with the big brush. Big brush means the regular size brush. And when we write names, we use small brush. But for hiragana, kana we call. Kana writing, we have a specific style. So we have to learn separately from regular kanji practice. And I've done it some, but I'm not master it. It's really, as you see, the line is so thin, and you really have to be one with the brush and breathing and everything to make the, flow. And because but I love kana calligraphy. Yeah, when I was growing up, I didn't care for it. So it's tiny, and it's, you really have to, almost like you have to stop breathing to make the nice line. But that's the purpose. So I thought of the Meiji Emperor when I painted this, because of a lot of hiragana. It's kana is more the female, feminine style, and the kanji is masculine.
Oh,
But, like there's like history that you can go to, but kanji is more masculine. And for Meiji Emperor, I wrote in the book too, but I don't really remember learning about Meiji Emperor's waka in the school, and so I haven't really heard, I haven't seen. But through this process, by reading his poems, I felt how sensitive his mind, spirit, and sensitive means in a good way. It's really considerate, his heart. So I could feel the softness of the kana style, but also he's male, he's the emperor, and the kanji in it too. So I thought this is perfect, kanji and the kana together. But I wanted to show the kanji's powerful kanji energy, masculine energy, and kana's really soft touch, his the heart. So also I decided to just express the just my way of kana, flow, and kanji, and I painted so many times. Papers everywhere.
Wow, yeah, I can imagine that. But I really feel going through the book how much we feel this balance through, this very powerful kanji and the softness of the hiragana. This harmony between the two is really impressive. And so, yeah,
Thank you.
I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Really incredible is that you have the kanji are basically images, and the kana, the katakana or hiragana are sounds, and a lot of poetry has a meter, has rhythm. And when I know, because I write a lot of poetry, I've done lots of haikus, which I will publish hopefully soon, and then hundreds of other poetic texts. And the way that when you write is you say them out loud, you say the words out loud. They have this mantra type of character that the Japanese call kotoba. And the marriage of the two, that's really magic.
Yeah, we can really feel it through yeah, absolutely.
It's such an incredible job. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. And so maybe talking about, of course, we will talk about Meiji Tenno, the Meiji Emperor. just to bring maybe some historical context, because maybe today, out of the context, the idea of revering to the emperor may seem can seem maybe a bit nationalistic or political in Japan, or especially from a Western perspective. But of course, in the 20s and 30s, when Usui Sensei included this waka in his teaching, it was a very different time, right? So maybe, I don't know if you could help us understand why was Emperor Meiji so deeply admired? Eri said already a little bit something, but not just by... he was admired not only by those in power, but also from common people, farmers, or even elderly citizens. So why was that?
I don't really know, but from what I've gathered was that one, he was a charismatic leader, and he was both admired and not liked for the same reason, which was for opening Japan to the West. Some people liked it,
right?
Like that. But I heard like famous American and European statesmen talking about him with the greatest respect possible. They were saying he was such a charismatic leader. I think, in the end, he maybe is the one Japanese emperor that took the pulse of his people most closely. I remember when I was living in Japan until 23 years ago, I've been to many houses where they still had his portrait in the room. I thought he was must have been a very special guy. And like Eri-san said, you can feel his warmth, simplicity, his poetry. Now what we published is only a very small part of what he did. They say he wrote about 100,000. So we published 125 of them, which Usui Sensei liked.
Yeah, so
a lot, and they would be a good ethical backbone for his students. Because in Reiki, really, we lack too much philosophy. The only thing that we think of as a philosophical underlying principles are the Gokai 5 Reiki principles. But maybe Usui Sensei thought it would be good to give a little bit more without turning it into a sector. That was very cleverly done. Also in Reiki, obviously, you don't have to stick to a certain religion. You don't have to convert. You don't have to believe in anything. Nothing. Just as you are.
Yeah.
It's good. And the Meiji Emperor's poetry, or most of a lot of it anyway, was the same. Was for just the simple people to help them be more reflective, be humble, and to look at themselves, to be considerate. And all the poems are full of that sort of itoni shinsetsu ni,
yeah,
to others.
right. And so that's what we think is the reason why Usui Sensei felt such a deep connection with him, not to the point of seeing him almost like a father figure, as I saw in the book, right?
Yeah, that's what I was told by Ogawa Sensei, that his father had learned directly from Usui Sensei. He said that the emperor was like Usui Sensei's father to him. I am sure part of the Usui Sensei's reason for using the poetry may have been inclined too, for sure, because in Japan at the time there were many small, medium and large spiritual groups, and some of them were not really appreciated. So maybe one reason was to show that he didn't have a political agenda, which was good.
Right.
We don't have a religious agenda. We don't have a spiritual agenda. We don't have an anti-anything agenda. We have a pro-agenda, pro-living, pro-life, pro-enlightenment, pro-transcendence, pro-becoming the best human.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so we know that the Meiji Emperor wrote so many poems, right? Around 100,000 or something like that. And so why do you think Usui Sensei chose those 125? Do you see a unifying theme in the poems he chose?
Originally, he has chosen 100 poems in the first handout of the Gakkai. There were 100 waka.
Right.
And after World War II, a second edition was published, and there we had 125 waka. Ajahwa, you can tell us more about it.
So, okay. So what happened? Well, some of the poems were thought to be a little nationalistic. That appeared in the first handbook, and that was changed after World War II. And then what I heard is that every president of the Usui Association changed it around, depending on the social state of mind, or the state of mind, the zeitgeist of the people. So we don't know. He took some about friendship, some about loyalty, some about all sorts of interesting themes. So why he chose what he did?
You know what I noticed while I was painting? I haven't read all of his poems, so I can't really say. But in those selections, I found that poems are about a lot of poems are about like a connection with the regular people. Like I was surprised because I've never really read many of his, a few of his poems, but I didn't know that he was so thinking about his people. It shows in the poems, so many poems. So I could feel that he was really thinking about his people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
connection. Yeah.
This is maybe why Usui Sensei picked it. It's quite possible. The most important of the Reiki principles is the nourishing kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, so
that is not only for when you're in the classroom, but everywhere, shopping, dealing with people, and to realize that we're all sitting in the same boat. We're all the same. Yes. Nobody's better, nobody's different, nobody's higher, nobody's inferior or superior. Maybe this was part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, sometimes reading them, I guess we all can agree that there's a resonance between this waka and the spirit of the Gokkai, right? That there is really this alignment. And do you agree that it could have inspired Usui Sensei in shaping the 5 Reiki principles?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a mirror. Both, I think, are a mirror of the spirit of it.
Yeah.
They mirror what people found important.
Yeah. Right. Right. And also, always talking about Meiji Emperor. Now, I'd love to ask you something in relation to Shinto, because here's another point that came up in a conversation with a friend I had recently. You know, as in institutional Shinto, the emperor is seen as a direct descendant of Amaterasu, Omikami, and the Kami, the sun goddess, let's say the central deity in Shinto. And now this belief was especially emphasized during the Meiji era, if I get it right. So possibly also for political reasons. And so that's a question I was thinking about. Like, while I really fully believe that Usui Sensei had a genuine admiration and respect for the emperor, do you think even just a little that including the waka could have been a way to protect the Reiki practice from being misunderstood, maybe, or associated with other spiritual movements, as there was a lot of spiritual movements using the hands at the time? Or was this perhaps a way to, to keep the practice aligned with something accepted culturally?
Okay, me personally, I think that's quite possible. But I don't know. It's just my way of thinking. I don't know if that's in alignment with the Sui Sensei. I think it's quite possible. And if so, clever.
Yeah, it's curious to think. I'm sure that there is a genuine, of course, admiration. Of course, it's aligned completely when we read the poems, and the spirit of Gokai seems to me like really in alignment with that. It was just something I was wondering, also because of the the political times, the history, and yeah, I was
For
wondering.
sure, he had to make a very clear statement that the Sui Association of this Reiki has no political agenda.
Exactly.
It's quite different from the political mind that wants to change people from the top down, whereas we know that we change from inside out. Very different approach.
Yeah.
Patrick,
He opened his first dojo on the area of the Meiji Shrine. And maybe there's a connection to the Meiji Emperor and his idea of going into public with his message, with his work. But on the other hand, the Meiji Tenno was dead at this time, and his son was Tenno in Japan.
That's right.
And so maybe he focused on the dead Tenno because he was more a legend. And for his, I don't know the word, Confucianismus,
Confucianism.
The Meiji Tenno was number one.
Yeah.
And to hear the waka of the number one is good for his teaching, because he can sit back and tell people something that is not originated from him, but is very wise and can support his teaching.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for your answer. I know it's a bit tricky, but I always end up thinking about the choices of including such poems that are wonderful, but it's interesting also historically what was happening in the background at the time, right? We cannot ignore that, I think. And so
Mm.
I find it very interesting. Yeah. And yeah, going back really to the book, maybe first on translation or Java, translating, ancient poetry is such a delicate task, right? And so, how did you find the right balance between staying truthful, faithful to the original meaning, and making the poems also accessible and resonant for modern readers, let's say?
I don't remember. Long ago, so long ago, but then I will tell you, I'm happy to share how it happened.
Mm.
So we were just doing a series of workshops in the US and had some time off in between. And we rented a cabin in Georgia in the middle of the forest. No neighbors, no shops, no nothing. And we stayed there with Chetna Kobayashi, my former wife, for 3 or 4 days. And all we did was this, translate the poems. And after whatever, I don't remember, 3 or 4 days, we had it recorded. And it was a beautiful process. It was super green all around us, forest.
Mm.
And the problem that I encountered in Japan was that my Japanese comprehension is very good, but I can't read enough kanji, so I always need somebody to read something to me.
Mm.
In spoken, I understand everything, but I can't read. So Ketna was reading the Waka, and then I said, okay, yeah, I translated it, and then we discussed each one to see if I got it right or she thought she had a different line. It's kind of flowing process, and there was really no intellectual decision whether I'm going to stick with the literal or go in a different direction. I never thought of it.
Right.
It was just kind of a beautiful 3 or 4 day flow. And later on, I discovered that in writing, that's kind of my way, how I do it. I don't think. I don't have time to think. It's like when you play music, if you play a guitar or a bass or a drum or something, the moment you think that I want to hit that sound, it's too late. Or you want to do this chord, it's too late, you missed it. It has to be automatic process that takes place somewhere else, but not in your small mind. Mm. The translations were like that. It was just a beautiful flow.
Wonderful.
Nothing else. I don't even remember if we ate. We probably did, but we were just immersed in this poetry. Beautiful. And this is the thing I love about writing poetry, not translating, but writing my own quotation marks, my own poetry, is that you really are in a state of not knowing. You don't know where it's going. You don't know where it's coming from. The words are just pouring through you, and it's so nice. So such a cleansing process.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Can you relate also to that, Eri, when you do your calligraphy?
Yeah. The calligraphy process, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is challenging, but it's beautiful. process. It's, calligraphy is like meditation. So it was very special time for me. Spiritually, yes, it was very, and also I don't usually paint kana style, so it it gave me like an open up more to the kana world. I love that flow very much, and I enjoyed it, even though it was challenging because tiny bit. If I make mistake or if I don't like it, then whole poem I have to discard.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm painting, feeling good, and in the middle, just if I don't like it, then so I just it was a beautiful process, but at the same time, that was very interesting process. But I'm really feel honored to be able to paint Meiji Emperor's waka. Because it's emperor's, Japanese emperor's waka. And I felt like, is it okay? Is it okay that can I do this? So almost like, I have to tell Meiji Emperor, like, I'm not really master, but is it okay? Thank you so much for letting me do this.
Beautiful.
So in the many different dimensions, I felt very special. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I really feel appreciated. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Ajaba-san and Patrick-san.
Oh, what was so nice about this project was that I never had the idea that this is my book, but always had the idea that this is our book. Collaboration of these three people trying to polish and making the best out of this for you guys to read and to enjoy. That was very, very nice.
Wonderful.
Sweet process. It took a long time, and of course, Elisan's work was really super hard. Now I'm thinking, what did I just say? It just took 3 or 4 days to translate. I know. I'm blushing now. What Elisa Patrick-san did, it took so long, so much work.
When we started, I had black hairs.
Yes.
Oh, and we didn't talk about the design. I would love to hear about that process as well, Patrick. So the book has such a beautiful contemplative feel from the paper, like also the way it's very simple, but the layout and aesthetics is really delightful. So what were your guiding or intention in designing the book? What was your process on your side?
My first intention was to design the book in a way that everything is behind the words and the art. So nothing stands before it. So for me, the hardest part was to free the shodo and to make every single waka work, because we have this on over 100 pages. From the design, always the same.
Yeah.
Left side shodo, very beautiful, and right side 3 times the text. And if you do something like that, it's very dangerous to be boring the reader. So that was my first aim, to keep it in a way very simple, to let the shodo and the words in front of it. That was my intention, my idea.
And it's really transcripted completely, like we can really feel that. It's and what about the colors, and what was your intention also with the cover mainly?
Oh, okay. The cover, the chrysanthemum is, was heißt Wappen auf Englisch? Is the...
It's the family seal.
The family seal.
The crest? No, family. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I didn't like the idea to copy it. So I just took the inner part of it with the 16
petals.
leaves.
Yeah.
And the image behind it is silk, natural silk. And Eri's idea was to have the Meiji Emperor like water print on it.
And it's so discreet but delightful, huh? And the light is very soft. And yeah, we really feel almost it's like we want to touch it, because it's almost we feel the silk. No, I really love the design, really so wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, maybe I'd love to hear also a bit behind the scene for you three. So what was maybe the most challenging part on creating the book, if you had obstacles? If you want to share.
This is another book.
Okay.
What's the time? Till now, I always, when I did books in the beginning with my publisher, afterwards on my own with the publisher, was like this. We would discuss a project on the phone. She would listen quietly and she would say, yeah, done. When can you have it ready? And I already knew this question was coming, so I would give her a date. I would say, okay, now it's, let's say, September, August, end of March. She would say, all right, done. And that was it. Yeah? And with this project, it took, okay, somebody else can say the number. It took longer than that. Patrick had black hair.
Black hair and now white hairs.
Right. So some kind of hint. Yeah? So for me, this was the challenge. Most challenging was really the amount of time that it took. I was going back. That's why I have short hair. I used to.
All right. And so maybe on the other hand, what was the most joyful and meaningful part of this journey? Maybe another.
Our Zoom meetings. They were always a pleasure for me.
Yes. Yeah, Patrick and I had so many meetings, Zoom meetings. Like, Patrick, we are like, okay, this is it. This is it. And the this is it kept going on. But every time it was so much fun. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so
the challenge for me is that I don't understand Japanese. I cannot read kanji or kana, and every edition of the text is only with support of Eri possible, because she guided me through the text to edit and correct mistakes, and the lecture was done with us both, and Eri told me this line, this word, and so on. It took a while.
Yeah.
And for me, the biggest challenge was to digitize the shodo
Oh,
in
yeah.
a way that the soul is still alive in it. And every shodo is in a resolution that we could print it on a wall, 1 meter high. And the editing in Photoshop took me some 100 hours.
Oh, yes.
Because Eri wrote it on over a longer time, and the tint of the brushes is sometimes black, sometimes gray. The fading out is good visible. On other workers, it is so fine that it faded out to the tone of the paper. And my challenge was in such cases to have every worker in the same look and feel on every page. The originals are very different, but to see them in that difference in the book means that your feeling as a reader is, oh, what is that? Every page is in another style. Who did this and why? And that process took me a long time. And I think we did it twice, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Now you mentioning about that process reminded me, I forgot that many years ago, but I painted calligraphy over the years. But at first I painted on the paper, then Patrick suggested me to take photos. The original idea was me taking the photos and send it to you.
Right.
But to do that, I thought that I need like a sunlight. So I took papers, the calligraphy outside when it's sunny, and I took photos. And here it has to be summertime because wintertime gets rainy. So summertime, I went outside and under the sun, I was taking photos. And, by looking at that, after looking at the sunshine's reflection, eyes get, you can't. Like,
focus.
Yeah. But I took pictures and I sent it to Patrick, but I'm not tech savvy. So I kept asking Patrick, how can I do this? How can I send you? And the resolutions and those JPEG and those basic stuff that Patrick had to teach me what to do. Then finally, it didn't work out. So I decided we had to send the actual calligraphy to Germany. So whole 125, when I was ready, I shipped it to Germany. Then Patrick, after that, had to take photos, but with the special lighting and everything. So we went through so many process to put it in the computer. So me painting, like hand painting, took time, and also digital lighting, like Patrick says, it took a lot of time, a lot of effort in the book.
Yeah.
I thought they in that process they're going to get married. So I felt that they really got to know each other so well, because of all you cannot imagine the time. Incredible, really. When you see a book, you just go, yeah, wow,
exactly, yeah.
Nice, but you don't see what actually went into that.
No, and it's wonderful because really, as Patrick said, we when we look at the book, we can't really. It's very homogeneous. Like we can really understand. Like now that you explain how it was difficult to have the same amount of black, gray, and to now I can imagine how much work it might be. So wow, thank you so much for creating this balanced way to show us the wonderful calligraphy of Eri. This is really beautiful. Yeah.
But when Patrick and I were editing, but kanji earlier, Patrick mentioned that he doesn't read kanji, the Japanese letters, and because we went through editing so much, and I was giving him like, it looks like this, and then sometimes I wrote it down on the paper, and it looked for this, and it's showing to him. But later, he started to recognize it, and almost like at the same time, like he's learning Japanese. And when I think of it, and he is like, "Oh, is it this?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you know already what I'm gonna say."
Oh, wonderful.
It involved our editing.
Yeah. I guess after spending so many hours, Patrick, on like on working on these calligraphies, you may of course have learned more Japanese, right? Beautiful. Wonderful.
I learned something about waka,
Mm.
and it's very nice for me. Great adventure. Another question for us was the type, because we have 3 languages, and what kind of type is able to have kanji and kana and letters in English and German. And so I found a type that is the name is Klee 1, like the artist Klee, a German artist. And it was very, very nice because it looks a little bit like handwritten with a pencil.
Yeah, it's soft. It's not too heavy.
I was very happy with it because the Japanese style is, I like it. I really like it.
And we all do, I guess. Really, it really is soft enough to, as you said, it's almost like you didn't want to put too much personality inside this this message that has to go through, and it's it's nice because this way really the calligraphies are coming more first, and the message of the waka mainly stays. So it's wonderful. What a beautiful collaboration. Really, we're delighted to be able to find your book now. And maybe to all of you, for Reiki practitioners today, or even those just discovering these poems, how would you suggest they begin to integrate the waka into their daily life or Reiki practice if they're doing Reiki?
So first of all, of course, You read them. You read them all, and then where your attention aligns, when you find one, just stay with it for a few days and read it every few times. And then maybe say it out loud, speak like that. And you could read one for your classes. This is what Shu Sensei used to do in the Suyi Association. I don't know if they still do it now, but they used to do it. And they would recite one poem, and then the teacher would talk about that and elaborate on the theme of that. They would talk about, give a commentary on the poem. You could use it as an oracle. You could go and
Yeah. To choose the one of the day.
and you choose the one of the day, or when you have an issue, you think, let's see what the Meiji Emperor has to say. So many possibilities with this kind of either with poetry or sutras. So because this is really what the waka is really like, a small sutra, or really.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, and well, maybe to close, an intimate question, maybe to end this beautiful conversation. Would each of you be willing to share one waka that really touches you, like that you really love? Is there one in particular that really stays with you?
Good question, no? Because I don't memorize any of them. But my favorite is the one like it's something like the purity of the human heart is able to even make a wrathful deity cry. Something like that. Do you recall what the exact word is, Patrick? You know which one that is?
Again, please.
The purity of the human heart, even the wrathful deity cry.
And now you want to know what waka it was.
Which number it is, because you know them so well. I can find it, I'm sure. But was the one that I liked most when I was translating.
Yeah.
What I think the human heart is such an incredible treasure house of both wisdom, of tenderness, of pure consciousness, and I find that so touching.
Wonderful.
You think I memorized it because I painted so many times?
Yeah, that's true. No. Yeah.
I knew you were gonna ask that, but I don't remember either. But the heart of Meiji Emperor that remains inside of me. Not the specific waka, but the feelings.
Yeah.
His messages and his, So.
Yeah, the spirit.
The last poem I edited on this book was number 58, and it's Oya Gokoro. And the German says, das Elternherz, der Frühlingstraum der Bauern, die sich im abgebrannten Feld um ihre Nachfahren sorgen, wird nicht von ruhiger Natur sein. And we had to edit it because it was a misspelling in the translation, because it's about the Fiesen and not the Pisen, I think. Is it right, Ajava? And this poem, when I edited this poem, and I read the Kana Kanji, the Japanese text, I tried to figure out what is it about. The season in the parents' heart, the spring night dream of the pheasants who worry about their offspring in the burnt field, I guess, won't be peaceful.
Pheasants, yeah, the pheasants.
The pheasants.
Yeah.
All right.
English is not good.
No,
Sorry.
no problem.
And the meaning of this poem was for me so heart-touching. Because I suddenly understood more about the situation of the Meiji Emperor when he wrote this. Maybe in a night, how deep shall I go? We know that his son was born with a concubine of him, not with his married wife. And the picture of this poem is not only the parent's heart, but it's also, my English is not good enough. Ajava, please help me. Ist die Sehnsucht nach seiner Geliebten ist damit auch gemeint.
So he also means the longing that he has for his beloved, for his concubine.
And so maybe this poem describes two sides of his life. His belonging to the concubine, his feelings to the concubine he misses at this time, and the duty to have a son.
Yeah.
And for me, this was whoa.
Yeah, it is. And in so few words, that's the to catch this feeling with few words. This is so beautiful, right? The beauty
and the
of
transcription in the other two languages means that we take the focus on one special meaning. We cannot translate all the meanings it has. So Ajava had to decide what picture he will draw with this waka.
Yeah.
The beauty for you as a Japanese reader is more in the multiple meanings it might have. And for me as a German reader, I trust in Ajava's decision. So for me, it was a farmer.
Beautiful. But yeah, this is one of the most deep, probably personal one that he shares without being too loud about it. But you really can understand the trouble and the worry behind, not worry, but the care. Yeah, I guess.
Meanwhile, I found the
You
poem.
found it! Yay!
Yeah.
The sincerity of the human heart in the world makes even a wrathful deity cry. Yeah, that's the one I like the most.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
We all have that potential. It's the job to polish that, to uncover that more and more.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we're slowly arriving at the end of this episode. Arjava, Eri-san, Patrick, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation together, your insights and your heartfelt presence. It's been such a pleasure to explore the depth also and the beauty of the Waka and of Meiji Emperor with you today. It definitely helped me deepen my understanding as well of them, and confirmed to me why Usui Sensei chose to share them with his students. So yeah, before we close, maybe can you share where we can find your book?
Oh, firstly on Amazon.
Yeah, so we can find
in every country.
Yeah.
And for our Japanese readers, we had published paperback. So they find the paperback version on Amazon in Japan. And you can ask in every bookstore
to find it. Perfect. Perfect. And maybe also if anyone wants to contact you personally, maybe I start with you, Patrick. Do you have a website that you want to share with us today?
Yes, it's 125waka.art.
Perfect. So I'll make sure that I will include that in the episode notes so that our listeners and people that watch the video can see the link directly. And yeah, so thank you again to all of you. And I look forward to connecting with you all again soon, I hope. ありがとうございました。Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you so much for listening, and a big thank you once again to Arjava, Eri, and Patrick. You can find Eri's beautiful printed calligraphies of Emperor Meiji's waka by placing an order on her website, sakagoeri.com, in the 125 waka section. And she can also create a custom calligraphy according to your request. You can also find Arjava's and Patrick's websites and all the links in the show notes of this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to share my podcast with someone you think might be interested. Your support and your listening mean a lot to me. I'll see you very soon for the next episode, and in the meantime, take care. ありがとうございました。